Hi, I'm going to show you a few tricks for spring cleaning your Google Classroom. It's a good time to do that at the end of the semester so you can get everything ready for the next semester. I'm going to assume, since you're watching this at the end of the semester, that you're pretty familiar with Google Classroom already. And as Ben Franklin said, for every minute spent organizing, an hour is earned. So first, let's look at our to-do list. I'm going to warn you right now, don't delete your classroom folder from your Google Drive. This is something that will really mess things up for you. It's just created inside your Google Drive one time. That's when you make your first classroom, and all of your new classes in Classroom will make their own folders there. If you get rid of that one main drive called Classroom, it can bring some big problems and it's pretty hard to fix. So don't do that. Here's the to-do list. First, you're going to return all your students' work. Make a classroom template so you can just reuse the same classroom next time without having to import all of your assignments. Unenroll your students from your classroom. Archive your classroom. Clean up your calendar that's associated with your classroom. Clean up your classroom drive folder. And then clean up your drive itself. So first, let's look at return all work. This gives control of the documents back to the students. Once they submit it to you, you have control and are the owner of the document. When you return it to them, they have control back. So inside grades, you need to choose an assignment, click on the All Students box, and return the assignment. Now the work all refers to ownership by the student, and you can still see it in your classroom folder, but it belongs back to them. Next, make a classroom template. You can save time by turning your current class into a template for future classes. There's no need to add assignments to your new classes. They'll already be there as drafts. You just need to put some due dates on them and assign them. And the messages from your stream and due dates won't be saved, but things like rubrics will be. So it's worth your time to do. To do that, you need to organize your classroom, make sure it is like you want it to be copied. Make a copy of it and name it something that's quite obvious to you so you can find it easily. And in the future, you can just copy that template for your next classes. So to make a copy, you need to go to the classes page and click on the three dots and choose copy. When you do that, it'll bring up a menu that will let you rename that classroom. Number 3 is unenroll your students from your classroom. You can remove students so they don't have future access to your course, whether it's archived or not. So you need to go into People and tick Actions, and then choose Remove. That'll remove all of those students. They can't get back into your classroom then. All the files will stay in your classroom drive, and students will have access to anything that's in their classroom drive, but they won't have actually access to your classroom anymore. The next thing you want to do is to archive your classroom. You can archive it so students don't have access to it, and it doesn't clutter up your classes page. After a few semesters, you'll start having so many classrooms in your classes page that it's hard to find. It just clutters everything up. When you archive your classroom, it also disappears from your students' classes page, and that will help them out as well. So you need to go into your classes page and go select the three dots and choose Archive. It'll bring up this little window that warns you about what's going to happen, and you can just click Archive. You can restore that class anytime from archived classes. To do that, you need to just click the little 3-line menu at the top where it says Google Classroom and choose Archive Classes. It'll bring up a thing that looks just like your classes, but all of the names and the backgrounds will have these little stripes through them, and that shows that they're not active. Then if you click the 3 dots and click Restore, it'll pop right back out to your classes, no harm done. So you can undo this basically anytime you want to. On that topic, reusing posts from an archived classroom is really easy. If it's archived, it doesn't mean you can't pull posts from it. You pull posts from it just like you pull from active classes. So when you click Create, you can choose Reuse Post, and then it brings up that menu and lets you choose which class you're choosing from. I'm going to choose it for my template class here, so I just select that. You can see that my archive classes are also here, and you can choose from those as well. And then just scroll through and choose the assignments that you want to recycle. The 5th task is to clean up your calendar. This is not directly inside your classroom, but it's associated with it. Every time you make a new class, it creates a new calendar for you. This can get to be a big mess in your calendar if you use calendar a lot. To tidy up what you see in your calendar, you can hide your old calendars. It's possible to delete them, but it's not really necessary. If they're hidden, they don't bother you, and then you could always unhide them if you needed to later. So you need to go Take a look inside your calendar. At the bottom left, you can see where it says My Calendars. Choose the one that you want to get rid of. If you hover over it, it'll give you those 3 little dots and it'll pull up a little menu, and then it says Hide from List. If you tick that, it'll just go away. You won't see it in your My Calendars and you won't see those events in your calendar anymore. Then you can just reverse that if you ever need to get into it again. Task number 6 is to clean up your Classroom Drive folder. Every time you make a new class, there's a new folder added to your Classroom Drive, and it's the name of your class. So that gets to be a bit of a mess when you've got a lot of stuff in there, I know, and there's a limited amount of stuff that you can do because you don't want to break the links that are already set up there. But one thing you can do is to archive the assignments that you need to keep, for example, projects, if you need to hang on to those for a semester or two. And one way you can do that is by making a copy for yourself. An easy way to make copies of a whole folder, so a whole project assignment, for example, or a whole class project folder, is to just download it, that whole folder, to your computer and then re-upload it to your drive. And you can put it anywhere in your drive that you like. It doesn't need to go in your Google Drive or in your Classroom Drive anymore. So how to do that is you just right click on a file or folder and then you get this menu, click download, and it will download a zip file for you. That'll go right onto your computer wherever your downloaded files are stored. And then when it's done downloading, you can just re-upload it back to Classroom Drive and store it wherever you want to. The benefit of that is that if you keep the copy of the assignment that the student submitted, just the one that's in your normal classroom folder, it will still be editable by the student if you have returned the assignment. Even if you unenroll that student from Classroom, it's still in their Classroom Drive folder, so they own it, they have control over it. You want to make your own copy that they don't have any access to be safe. Another thing you can think about doing is to make another folder outside of your Classroom Drive folder for any exemplary work that you want to keep and hang on to refer to later. You can move those things from your Classroom Drive out into that folder as much as you like to. You can also do that by making copies and just moving the copies over, just like I just described. And that's a nice archive to have for later when you want to look at good student work. Number 7 is to clean up your Google Drive. This is not directly related to your classroom, but your drive does tend to get pretty cluttered from Classroom. First of all, don't worry about the Shared With Me folder. It's actually a filter, not really a folder. It's just anything anyone has shared with you, whether it's been from email, something you've clicked on, something your students have shared. Anything that's shared with you goes into this folder that's not really a folder. It's not yours. You don't own any of it. You shouldn't try and reorganize it because those are files that belong to other people. It's just a way to look at it in a filter to see what other people have shared with you. Don't worry about that. It's a mess. It's okay. There are other ways to organize things. For a big cleanup of your Google Drive, you can try this method. Make a new folder in your Google Drive called Not Yet Organized, or something like a big mess, unorganized junk, something like that. Put everything in it, all of your files in your entire Google Drive, every single one. It will take some time. It's a bit of work, but once everything is in there, you should have a completely clean Google Drive except for that one folder that's all your junk. Then you need to think of a new filing system for your Google Drive. You're starting from scratch basically, so you're making new folders. You can make subfolders. You can organize that architecture however makes sense to you. Everyone is a little bit different how they organize things. And then every time you open a file from this not yet organized file, open it up. If you're needing it, that means that it's probably a frequently used file for you, or it's useful to you. So then you can put it where it should go once you've used it. Then eventually, once you've got a lot of things pulled out of this not yet organized folder and organized into the right places, you'll notice that the stuff that's left over in your not yet organized folder is just a bunch of stuff that you don't really need anyway. So you can leave it there. It doesn't bother you. It's not getting in your way, and you don't really have to put in the work of organizing those things. You can also take this opportunity to name your stuff so it makes sense to you. So something that you can search easily, or something that you can find easily inside your folders. And to do this organizing is helpful if you use color or emojis, things like that. You can right click to change the folder color. You can use emojis on the folder names for high visibility. And you can also star folders and files. So if you select a file or folder and click just the S key, it'll make a little star next to it. And then you can go into the starred folder in your Google Drive and find all your stuff that's starred, so all the stuff that's important to you. And so here's what my drive looks like once it's been cleaned up and got some colors and things in it. Each one of those different color folders has got a whole bunch of subfolders, and I can just move things into there as I need to. So here's my to-do list. I have returned all my students' work. I have made a classroom template so I can just make a class really easily next semester. I've unenrolled all my students from my classroom so they can't get in anymore. I've archived it so it doesn't mess up my class page. I've cleaned up my calendar. I've cleaned up my classroom drive folder and then tidied up my Google Drive itself a little bit. Remember, don't delete your classroom folder from your Google Drive. Good luck with your organizing. I hope it goes really well for you, and have a great summer.